"What do you mean she's crying in the break room again?" Warren Nolan asked, his voice tight as he stared down at the report in his hand. He sat alone in his office on the 8th floor of the downtown building. Giant glass windows framed the skyline behind him, but Warren wasn't looking at the view. He was reading yet another incident report from one of his 16 warehouse locations, specifically Warehouse 6 in Jackson. It was the third one this month mentioning a new hire quitting after less than a week. The reasons: hostile tone from supervisor, felt unwelcome, and in one case, called useless. Warren had built the company from scratch, one rented garage and a borrowed pallet jack. 10 years later, he had 16 warehouses across 3 states and over 400 employees. But lately, something felt off. Too many complaints, too much turnover, and the worst part, he didn't know who to trust. District managers gave polished answers, site managers blamed the new generation. But Warren didn't want excuses. He wanted truth. He reached for his coffee, then paused halfway. What if I go see for myself? He'd never met most of the warehouse staff. With 16 locations, it was impossible. Most people only saw his face on the company's website if they looked at all. He wasn't flashy. No suits, no ties, just jeans, plain shirts, and a ball cap most days. Still, if he showed up as himself, it would change everything. They'd clean up, act polite, put on a show, but if he went undercover, Warren leaned back in his chair, already thinking it through, he'd pose as a new hire, a temp loader. Warehouse 6 had a few on rotation every month that wouldn't raise suspicion. He'd use a fake name, grow out some scruff, maybe a subtle dye job to darken his graying hair. Glasses, a stitched-up backstory, he'd make it work. 2 days later, Will Nance walked into Warehouse 6 for orientation. He wore scuffed boots, a faded flannel, and thick-rimmed glasses. His usual sharp beard was now patchy, uneven. No one batted an eye. The facility was busy, short-staffed like most places. A few guys had called out. Some Fridays were like that. The manager, a woman named Jenna, barely looked up from her tablet when he walked in. "You the new loader?" she asked. "Yeah, Will," he said, offering a hand. She didn't shake it. "You'll be on shift with Supervisor Dale. He'll show you around." She pointed toward the back, then moved on. The warehouse smelled like cardboard and dust. Forklifts beeped in the distance. A few workers glanced at him, nodded, then kept moving. It was busy but not chaotic. Not yet. A tall guy in a windbreaker approached him near loading bay 3. Early 40s, strong build, but something in his walk like he owned the place. "Newbie?" the man asked, looking him over. "Yeah, Will. I'm Dale. You shadow me today. You don't screw anything up. We'll get along fine." Warren nodded. "Got it." They started with unloading. Boxes, pallets, scanning labels. It was physical work, but Warren was used to it. He jumped in, kept pace, didn't complain. After an hour, his shirt was soaked through, but he noticed something else, the way Dale spoke. "Move faster, rookie. You're not in a nursing home. That's backward." "Do I have to do everything myself? You think I'm here to babysit? Figure it out." Warren stayed quiet, observing. Maybe Dale was just tough. Some supervisors were rough around the edges. But then another new hire, a girl maybe 20 or 21, joined the line. Brown hair in a tight bun. Nervous energy, she walked up, holding a scanner. I think this one's not reading right." Dale didn't even let her finish. "Jesus, are you serious? That's like the easiest part of the job," she flinched. I just didn't want to scan it wrong." "Then don't scan it wrong," he barked. "You think this is daycare? You won't last a week if you keep whining." Warren's jaw clenched. He watched the girl shrink back, her hands trembling slightly. She walked off in silence, heading toward the break room. Dale turned to Warren with a smirk. "She's the third one this month. They come in soft and leave softer." Warren forced a nod but said nothing. Later, on lunch break, Warren found her sitting alone behind a stack of pallets, knees pulled to her chest. She wiped her face quickly when she saw him. "You okay?" he asked gently. She nodded too fast. "I'm fine. Just tired. You want me to tell someone?" "No, please don't. I need this job." Warren nodded again. "I get it." That night, back at his motel, Warren sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. His hands were sore, his back ached, but worse was the knot in his stomach. He thought about that girl, the way Dale humiliated her, the way no one stepped in, and that wasn't just one moment, that was a pattern. He opened his laptop and checked the employee records. Her name was Shelby Adams. Started 4 days ago, no infractions, no complaints, perfect attendance. Then he pulled up Dale's file, 7 years with the company. Good productivity numbers. 0 complaints, 0. Warren frowned. Either people were too scared to report him or someone was burying the reports. He closed the laptop. Tomorrow he'd push harder, ask questions, test limits. He wanted to see the full picture no matter how ugly it got. Warren showed up 15 minutes early the next morning, stepping through the side entrance just as the first shift buzzer went off. The air inside the warehouse felt heavier than the day before, not because of the temperature, but the tension that seemed to hang between the racks and loading docks. People moved with a mechanical rhythm, avoiding eye contact, heads down, eyes on the floor. It wasn't just exhaustion. It was something else. Something quieter but more corrosive. He clocked in using the temp badge clipped to his jacket. No one greeted him. No one asked his name. He found a pair of gloves on the supply rack and walked toward the rear loading zone where he'd ended his shift yesterday. Dale was already there, arms crossed, barking instructions at 2 workers retaping a torn pallet wrap. "Look at this mess. You think this is acceptable? Would you ship this to your own house?" he shouted, pointing at a box that had shifted off-center. One of the workers, a guy with a sleeve tattoo and a shaved head, started to respond, but Dale cut him off. "Don't explain. Fix it. Fast." Warren kept walking, pretending not to notice. He knew Dale hadn't recognized him yet. Most likely, he didn't bother remembering names unless he had to. He just needed bodies to move freight, nothing more. "Will," Dale called out, snapping his fingers. "You're pulling Zone 7 today. Start at the top racks. You screw up the sequence, I'm not fixing it." Warren gave a short nod and headed toward the back aisle. Zone 7 was high shelving and tight corners, exactly the kind of area that rookies usually avoided, because it required a steady hand and a good eye for labeling. But he welcomed it. It gave him space to move without constant shadowing and a better view of how the rest of the warehouse operated. He climbed onto the rolling ladder and began pulling boxes, scanning each one carefully before stacking them on the lower skid. He kept his eyes open, watching the floor. That's when he noticed something strange. Every 20 minutes or so, workers from the far end of the warehouse would disappear behind the returns cage, then reappear looking irritated, sometimes rubbing their necks or muttering to themselves. At first, he thought it might have been a break area, but break rooms had chairs, a microwave. Something? This was nothing but a fenced-off corner with a few plastic bins and a locked filing cabinet. During his lunch break, he found a spot near the vending machines, sitting on an overturned crate. Shelby walked in with a sandwich clutched in her hand, scanning the room like she didn't want to be seen. She spotted Warren and hesitated. He motioned toward the spot next to him. "I won't bite," he said. She sat down carefully, peeling a corner of the sandwich wrapper with her thumb. "You holding up okay?" he asked. She nodded but didn't speak. He waited a moment. "You know what's back in that fenced-off area near the return section?" Her eyes flicked toward him. "Why? Just curious," he said. "I've seen people go in, come out looking like they got chewed out." Shelby looked down at her sandwich. "That's where Dale takes people when he wants to correct them. Off the floor, no witnesses." Warren raised an eyebrow. "That allowed?" "I don't think anyone checks." "And even if they did, he'd probably say it's for privacy?" "You ever been back there?" She didn't answer right away. "Second day. I stacked something wrong near the bay door. He told me I was setting up a lawsuit, made me stand there while he read the safety manual out loud." 45 minutes. Warren leaned back slightly, letting the silence settle. "Why'd you stay?" he asked. "I don't have a car," she said. "This is the only job I could walk to, and I'm behind on rent." He nodded slowly. "You ever think about reporting it? To who?" "Jenna. She's worse. She calls us burn and churns, like we're supposed to flame out." "HR?" Shelby gave a small, bitter laugh. HR's a phone number taped to the wall. I called once, left a message, never heard back. Warren didn't respond. He didn't need to. The pieces were falling into place. Dale wasn't just abrasive, he was unchecked. And Jenna? She wasn't just indifferent, she was complicit. If anyone had escalated complaints, they never left that warehouse. Either she was blocking them or no one trusted the system enough to try. That afternoon, Warren worked the floor with a guy named Len, mid-30s, quick on his feet and noticeably more focused than the others. They got through 3 aisles in record time. When they finished, Warren offered to help rewrap a split pallet nearby. "You've been here a while," Warren asked as they worked. 2 years, Len said. "Feels like 10. You ever think about leaving?" "Every month, but I got 2 kids, one's got asthma, I can't gamble on gaps in health insurance," Warren nodded. "You ever have run-ins with Dale?" "Everyone does eventually. I just keep my head down, do my numbers, that's the trick." "You think Jenna knows what he's like?" Len paused. "Knows, she trained him, they've been here forever." "They think this place runs because of them?" "What about upper management?" Warren asked carefully. "Nobody comes through. District guy came once last year, suit, clipboard. Walked around for 20 minutes, asked how the coffee machine was working. That was it." Warren didn't push further. Len had already told him enough. By the end of the shift, Warren's hands were raw, but he didn't leave right away. He found an excuse to hang back, helping restack a miscounted order near the dock. Jenna walked by, tapping on her tablet. She didn't notice him at first. "Need help?" he asked. She glanced up. "You're the temp, right?" "Will," she nodded. "You're not bad, most of them flake by day 3. "Thanks," he said. "Place seems busy." "We process more freight than any other location in the region," she said. "You'd be surprised how many people can't handle it." He let the comment hang, then tried something. "You ever worry the pressure might push the wrong people out?" Jenna looked at him like he'd asked whether gravity was optional. "This isn't high school," she said. "It's a warehouse. You either keep up or you don't." Warren gave a slow nod and turned back to the boxes. That evening he sat in the motel room with the lights off, laptop open but untouched. The day hadn't shocked him. It had confirmed what he'd feared. This wasn't just a rough workplace. It was a managed collapse, a system designed to chew through people and spit them out as fast as they arrived. And the worst part? The people at the top of that system were rewarded for it. He opened a blank document on the screen and started typing names. Not just Dale and Jenna, but anyone who had quietly resisted. Len. Shelby. A woman named Teresa who had helped him find a missing barcode without saying a word. People who kept the place running, even while being ignored. He saved the file. Tomorrow he'd push it further. He'd go into that fenced-off corner. And then he'd decide what needed to be done, who to confront, what to change, and how to make sure no one like Shelby ever had to eat lunch by herself again, afraid to be seen. The third morning started without warning. No buzzer, no announcements. A forklift had clipped the edge of a stacked pallet near the east dock, scattering boxes of detergent across the floor. Warren stepped around the mess, instinctively grabbing a broom to help clear the aisle. "Leave it," Dale called from across the dock. "We've got bigger problems." "Bay 4's behind." Warren set the broom aside and jogged toward the bay. The rhythm of the morning was already off. There was no plan, just reaction. It was like working in a building with no bones, everything shifting, no structure to lean on. By mid-morning, the tension had climbed. A shipment of bulk pet food had arrived early, unannounced, and with no labels. The receiving team scrambled to figure out where it came from. Dale hovered instead of helping, barking questions, then walking away when no one had answers. Warren used the chaos to slip away toward the fenced-off section behind the returns area. He kept a clipboard tucked under his arm and moved like someone on assignment. No one stopped him. The gate wasn't locked, just a latch. He stepped inside, pulling it shut behind him. It was worse than it looked from the floor. A single folding chair sat under a flickering light. An old clipboard hung from a hook on the wall with a list of names and dates. Some were crossed out. Next to each name, 2 columns, incident and correction time. The corrections ranged from 10 to 60 minutes. A few had notes beside them refused or still slow. He flipped to the back page. The most recent entry was Shelby. 45 minutes, no explanation. A small stack of printed pamphlets sat on a crate nearby. Performance expectations, safety, speed standards. They looked official, but the font didn't match any company material Warren had ever approved. He took a photo with his phone, tucked it away, then stepped back out. He didn't go far. He climbed onto a storage rack in one of the shadowed corners and just watched. 10 minutes later, Dale marched in with a younger employee Warren hadn't met. The kid had a sling on his left arm and a nervous shuffle in his step. "You think you're doing us a favor showing up like that?" Dale snapped. The kid mumbled something. "Speak up. I'm not your guidance counselor." The door shut. Warren couldn't hear the rest, but it didn't matter. He'd seen enough. That afternoon, Warren returned to the floor and rotated through 4 different teams: pickers, packers, loaders, scanners. Each group had its own rhythm, and each told him something new. One woman had been there since the warehouse opened. She mentioned that she used to train new hires, but Jenna had taken that over personally 2 years ago. "Why'd that change?" Warren asked. "They said it was for consistency," she replied. "But really it was about control." He nodded, then asked about the annual reviews. Her face turned. "Haven't had one in a while. Used to be standard. Now they just tell us if we're keeping our hours or not." That night, Warren sat in his truck outside the warehouse long after his shift ended. He hadn't planned to stay longer than a week, but things had shifted. What he'd found wasn't just a toxic work environment. It was a controlled system of suppression, one that filtered out dissent, resisted improvement, and rewarded fear. He made a call. The next morning, he arrived early again, but not in uniform. He wore a plain blue button-down jeans and a company badge clipped to his belt. No disguise, no glasses. He walked through the front door and asked for Jenna. She met him in the front office, eyes narrowing slightly. "You're back early," she said. "I'm not Will," Warren replied evenly. "I'm Warren Nolan." She stared. "Founder, CEO," he added. There was a pause, then her voice dropped a note. "Right, of course, I just didn't recognize you. I expected that." He stepped past her and walked through the swinging door into the warehouse. No one noticed him at first, then Len did. His eyes widened slightly, but he said nothing. Dale came around the corner, clipboard in hand. He stopped short. "You're out of uniform," he said. Warren looked him square in the face. "I'm also your boss." Dale blinked. "Warren Nolan," Warren said again. "I've been working here the last 3 days, as a loader." Dale opened his mouth, then closed it. "Let's keep moving," Warren said, turning around. "Everyone gather up near the central aisle. Now." Word spread fast. Within 3 minutes, nearly everyone from the morning shift stood in a loose semicircle between the racks. No one spoke. Many didn't even know who he was, just a man commanding attention with a calm, unreadable voice. "I've spent the last 3 days working beside you," Warren began. "I didn't come here to make a speech. I came because I stopped trusting secondhand reports, and what I found here, what I saw with my own eyes, was unacceptable." There was a ripple through the group. Dale shifted behind him, arms crossed. "I watched good people get pushed out. I saw fear instead of teamwork, silence instead of trust. I saw systems designed to hide problems instead of fix them." Shelby stood near the back. She didn't move, but her eyes locked on him. "And I saw leadership fail you," Warren said. "That ends today." He turned to Dale. "You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately." Dale's posture changed for the first time. His arms dropped. "You can't just—" "I can," Warren interrupted, "and I just did." He turned to Jenna, who hadn't moved from the office doorway. "You've been managing this location for years. You've had every opportunity to build a culture of growth. Instead, you built one of control. You're done here. I want your keys and your badge." Jenna didn't argue. She simply turned and walked back toward the office. The room stayed silent. Warren let the weight of it settle. "For everyone else," he said, "this warehouse isn't shutting down. It's starting over. I've already called in a new interim manager, someone from another facility who knows how to lead without intimidation." He looked around the room. Every employee who's been here longer than 6 months will be offered an individual review. If you left recently and want to come back, we'll open that door. You'll be paid for orientation time, no questions asked. No one moved yet. It was too much, too fast. Len stepped forward. What about Shelby? Warren turned to where she stood. You're staying if you still want to. You'll be part of the retraining team. You'll help rebuild the culture here with full pay during the transition and a review for promotion in 60 days. She nodded slowly. Her hands stayed at her sides, but her shoulders eased. Warren looked across the group again. You've been surviving this place. I want you to start building it. My office will be sending out surveys, real ones, anonymous. You'll be paid for the time it takes to fill them out. He let out a breath, then added one final line. If you've been waiting for someone to fix this, stop waiting. I'm here now. And I'm not leaving until the job is done right. The group slowly began to break apart. Some returned to tasks. Others lingered in quiet circles, whispering, watching. Warren stood still, watching them all. The damage had been done. But it wasn't permanent. For the first time in a long while, the floor felt like it might finally be ready to carry something real. The following Monday, the warehouse floor buzzed with a different kind of energy. Not faster, not louder, just clearer, like something had been lifted. The absence of Dale and Jenna didn't create a vacuum, it created space. Warren stood off to the side near the inbound bay, hands in his pockets, watching the crew fall into rhythm without being barked at. Orders were moving. Pallets were shrink-wrapped without incident. There was still tension, but it came from effort, not fear. A silver sedan pulled into the lot. A woman in her 50s stepped out, clipped a badge to her collar, and walked in with a purposeful stride. Warren met her at the entrance. You made good time, he said. Didn't want to waste a minute, she replied. I've read the full report. Names, timelines, everything. I'm already drafting a 6-week transition plan. Her name was Carla Banks. She'd managed the company's highest-performing warehouse outside Fort Worth for over 7 years. 0 HR complaints, lowest turnover in the system, and a reputation for developing frontline workers into shift supervisors faster than any other site. She wasn't loud about it. She was precise. I'm not here to babysit, she said. I'm here to rebuild, Warren nodded. You'll have my full support. She didn't reply. She was already scanning the floor by mid-morning. Carla had done 3 full walkthroughs, spoken to every team lead, and called a group meeting in the corner near the safety board. Employees gathered slowly, curious but cautious. Carla stepped up on a pallet to be seen. I'm not here to talk about what used to happen in this place, she said. I'm here to talk about what's going to happen next. No one interrupted. For the next 2 weeks, all shift rotations are frozen. Nobody's losing hours. Nobody's getting bumped. You show up, you work your section, and you'll be paid for every minute you're here, including orientation refreshers. A few heads turned. That wasn't standard. There will be no write-ups without documentation and a witness. If someone asks you to step aside for a correction, you tell them no. That's not how we do things anymore. Warren watched the shift in posture. People weren't relaxing yet, but they were listening. If you're managing a task, you'll be trained on how to train others. If you're new, you'll be paired with someone who gives a damn. That's the new policy. Carla stepped down. Get back to it. No applause, just steady movement. That was enough. Warren walked with her toward the back of the facility. I want someone watching the returns area, she said. That corner's been poisoned. It won't fix itself. I'll get you a camera team, Warren replied. I don't need footage, she said. I need presence. A real one. By the end of the week, the break room had been scrubbed, repainted, and outfitted with a second table and a functional coffee machine. Not expensive upgrades, just thoughtful ones. Warren had one rule. Every change had to be visible within 7 days. No promises, no memos, just actions. Len approached Carla near the racking system on Friday afternoon, wiping his hands on his vest. I was told I'm on the list for a review, he asked. You are, she said. Have you ever led a team? Not officially. You're about to, he blinked. I didn't think you didn't think it was possible here, I know. That's changing. Warren saw the way Len's eyes tightened slightly, not with doubt, but with the kind of disbelief that comes from being noticed after years of invisibility. Carla turned to Warren. He's sharp, makes decisions without drama. I want him shadowing me next week. Warren nodded. That weekend, Warren returned to the downtown office for the first time in days. His assistant had stacked a folder of deferred decisions on the corner of his desk. Budgets, expansion proposals, vendor negotiations. He pushed them aside. Instead, he opened a new document and began drafting a policy revision. No warehouse supervisor can manage without quarterly peer reviews. No location manager can remain in role without passing an anonymous employee feedback threshold. Every complaint must be logged with a timestamp. Failure to respond within 72 hours triggers an automatic escalation. He wasn't writing suggestions. He was writing rules. The next week, Shelby walked into the training room at Warehouse 6, not the old break room. A real training room converted from unused office storage. She stood at the head of the table, a printed sheet in her hand and 3 new hires sitting in front of her. She didn't stumble over her words. She didn't look over her shoulder. She explained the company's expectations clearly. She described the scanning system, the labeling process, and the 3 things that mattered most: accuracy, safety, and respect. Warren stood outside the door, listening for a moment. He didn't go in. Later that day, Carla found him near the loading docks. She's steady, she said. Not flashy, but she listens. That's what you want in a trainer. I know. Carla folded her arms. I've got 4 people ready for Tier 1 certifications. I'm putting them up for pay bumps. Approved, Warren said, and I want the correction cage dismantled. Tomorrow, I'll send a contractor. No, she said. Not a contractor. I want the team to do it with gloves and crowbars. They need to take it down themselves. Warren considered it. You think that matters? I think they need to see it fall. He nodded. That evening, the sun dipped low behind the warehouse, casting long shadows across the lot. Inside, a small group of workers stood around the fenced-off corner, gloves on, tools in hand. Shelby reached up and unlatched the gate. Len took the first swing. Metal groaned. A panel dropped. No one cheered. But no one looked away. The next morning, Warren returned one last time. He didn't wear a badge. He didn't carry a clipboard. He just walked the floor. A younger employee one he hadn't met during his undercover days caught up beside him. You the guy who fired Dale? He asked. I am, the kid nodded. He was my cousin. Warren stopped. You angry about that? The kid shook his head. He wasn't a good person here, thought he was untouchable, but people are breathing different now. Warren looked at the racks, the forklifts, the clock, then back at the crew. You planning to stay? I might. Depends if this place keeps changing. It will, Warren said, because now I know what happens when it doesn't. He walked outside into the crisp morning air. The lot was half full. The flag on the pole out front moved slightly in the wind. He got into his truck, pulled the door shut, and sat there for a moment. Then he drove back to headquarters. There were 15 warehouses still to visit.